What's up everyone, today we're going to take a look at an Instacart SQL interview question asked during data scientist and data analyst interviews hosted on StrataScratch.com. This one is marked as hard. Let's get into it. Now this one's called Negative Reviews in New Location, marked as hard on StrataScratch.com and company tag for Instacart, ID 2087 if you want to search for it. I'm also going to leave a link down below to that question. But our task is to find stores that were open in the second half of 2021 with more than 20% of their reviews being negative. A review is considered negative when the score given by a customer is below 5. Output the names of the store together with a ratio of negative reviews to positive ones. So quite a lot there. We have two tables, one called Instacart Reviews, one called Instacart Stores. They do have some IDs in there as well as the review score and location of the store and opening date, which we're going to use. Okay, basically summing up the question, we want to find stores open in the second half of 2021 that have a lot of negative reviews, or more than 20% of the reviews being negative. And we should just output these stores, but not with the ratio of negative reviews, but the ratio of negative reviews to positive ones. So yeah, it's a bit different. If you have 10 reviews and 3 are negative, it would be 30% negative reviews. But then to get the ratio we should output, we have to divide 3 by 7 because there were 3 positive and 7 negative reviews. So it's slightly different, but we're gonna do it. So let's just try to divide and conquer this problem. We have two tables and we have a score in the first one in the reviews. We have the opening date in the second one in the stores table. So we're going to have to join them, combine them to be able to see whether these reviews are positive or negative and whether the store has been opened in the second half of 2021. So let's take care of that first, just joining the tables. Let's select star for now to make it easier. Select star from Instacart Reviews. Let's call that Reviews. We're joining Instacart Stores. Call that Stores. And we're joining these on the store ID in Reviews. So Reviews. But store ID should be store.id because ID in stores refers to the store ID. Yeah, very common thing. Let's run that to see if that basic thing works. It does. We have the opening date and review score for each store. So that's all good. I think the next thing we could do would be to, let's do it in order. Filter to stores that have been open in the second half of 2021. So where opening date is between 2022 07 01, so 1st of July. That should be exactly the start of the second half of 2021, right? It should be between that and the end of 2021. So let's make that December 31st. All right, let's just run that to see if that works. Yes, opening date is in the second half of 2021. So yeah, we finished that part of the question. Let's look finish that part. Let's look into more than 20% of their reviews being negative. Okay. So instead of selecting star, I think what we would want is to get a sense of the review scores and whether they're negative. And yeah, just try to come up with the number of negative reviews for a store. Okay. So we're gonna select store ID. And then, let's think about it. Let's do case when then statement here to check whether the score is lower than 5. That's pretty much how the next sentence is structured. So a review is considered negative when the score given by customers below 5. So case when the score is lower than 5, then it's negative. Let's say it's counted as a 1 being one negative review, else 0 and okay. I'm not going to give that a name yet, just see whether that case statement works. Yeah, so we have some 0 and 1s for positive and negative reviews. I'm also going to include score to showcase which score corresponds to which 0 or 1 case value. So if score is 7 here, not a negative review. Score is 3 here, which means negative review. 1 standing for yes. Okay, so that works. Now if we were to sum that entire statement up, we would get the number of negative reviews. And if we group by store ID, then we should get the number of negative reviews per store, right? I'm going to remove score here. Otherwise, we would have to, it would mess up the query. So we have store ID and the number of negative reviews. I could rename that, but yeah, I'm still working on the structure. That seems to work. So if we get the number of all reviews, we could get the percentage of negative reviews, right? And I think getting the number of all reviews is much easier. We just need to count all columns, right? Because every review is every row is one review. So that should be just a count star or count that column or count 1. Should make a difference. Yeah, so we can see here, let's call that negative reviews for clarity. Store ID 7 has 4 negative reviews, 6 total reviews. Store 3 has 3 negative reviews and 5 total, and so on. So now let's just transform that really easily by adding slash to divide one by the other. So we're dividing these negative reviews, second column, by the third column, count of all reviews. That should give us percentage of negative reviews. Yes. So we would have to make this a float in PostgreSQL to be able to get floating point numbers and get the percentage. So we have one that has 0% negative reviews. We have one that has 0.2. So that works. I think now, since the code is becoming a bit long and convoluted, I'm going to switch to MySQL because I can do the same thing more easily, quicker here. So instead of using a case statement, I could just reduce it to a Boolean statement, score less than 5. If that entire thing is true, it's going to get a 1. If that entire thing is false, it's going to get a 0. And if we sum that up, it's going to do the same thing and just count up the number of negative reviews. Count star is going to work the same way. We don't need a float cast statement here. They do work differently in MySQL as well. So yeah, if I run that code, it does exactly the same thing. We just were able to reduce the amount of code quite significantly for this one column we select. Yeah, so that's why I usually use MySQL, but you just use whatever you're comfortable with. So let's get back to the question. So yeah, we should find stores open in the second half of 2021 with more than 20% of their reviews being negative. So what we selected here should actually be a filter for stores. So I'm going to use a having keyword here to filter on this value. And that should be higher than 0.2 because it should be more than 20%. Now I need to use having because these are aggregate functions and they are evaluated after the group by. If I were to try to use it in the where statement, it wouldn't work because the order of operations wouldn't know when to. Should it filter before summing up or should it filter after summing up? It's confusing. This way it's going to first filter on that opening date, then sum up stuff. So we have that in our having clause, filtering on more than 20% negative reviews. Let's get back to the question and think about what we still need. We should output the names of the store together with a ratio of negative reviews to positive ones. So instead of store ID, we need the name of the store. In this case, we're also going to group by name. Theoretically, they could have the same name for this question. It doesn't matter. It's a bit confusing here. It's better to group by store ID and IDs because they are unique identifiers, while name isn't always. But in this case, it's going to work for this question. I would just mention it during the interviews, like this is not best practice. But yeah, question is a bit tricky here. It expects you to use name. Anyways, we have the name now, and we should get the ratio of negative reviews to positive ones. So we're going to do the same counting of negative reviews here. So these are the number of negative reviews, then divided by the number of positive reviews. We're going to use the same thing and just change the score to being 5 or more, greater than or equal to 5. These would be the positive ones by, it's basically taking the opposite. If everything below 5 is a negative one, everything 5 and over should be a positive one, right? Exactly. Let's look at the expected output. It's supposed to say negative ratio here. Let's give it that name. Let's run our code and we have the expected output. I think it's just ordered differently. We're not told to order by anything. So let's solve it. It is correct. And that's it for that question. I think this one is hard because you need to be able to use these case when then statement or sum. You don't have to use having, that just makes it a bit shorter. You could have a subquery. Combine tables, filter on the opening date. Basically do a lot of things. Read carefully and calculate that review ratio, negative review ratio, and then negative to positive ones. So it can be quite tricky and confusing. I think that's why it's hard. But good question. We were able to solve it. If you want to give this one a try, head on over to StrataScratch.com. I'm going to have a sponsored link to this question specifically. Try out some more and maybe sign up for a membership to support the channel. It's going to be it for me today. See you next time.